The best morning greetings to you, everybody, from the northeast corner of what is soon to be sunny South Africa. The dawn is just ignited there on the eastern horizon. This is Safari Live.
Ready. Standing by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
I'm led to believe it's about 11 degrees Celsius here. That is what the weather report says. The weather report, of course, a greater work of fiction normally than the Zimbabwean elections of 2008. Now, my name is James Henry. On camera today is Eggsy the hipster. Eggsy is sporting a very hipster watch this morning. Every day we think that he's losing his Cape Town hipster nature, but he doesn't disappoint with some piece of accessorization, otherwise known as accessory, that shows he is still in the mind frame of Cape Town. Good morning, Eggsy.
Good morning.
There we are. On the other vehicle, Jamie Patterson is driving around. She's being filmed by the diminutive Willem Doornbraak, and they are going to look for Shadow, who they managed to find yesterday evening just before the close of drive. Our plan today is to go up here towards the east and then north to see if we can't pick up on the lions that were shouting possibly until, well, certainly until I fell asleep round about 10:15 last night. And then again this morning, and Chris Rogue and a few others have noticed or certainly heard them calling on the dam cam during the course of the night. So they're somewhere around. Whether they're on Djuma still, I don't know. In case you're wondering what on earth this is, what you've stumbled across, who is this strangely garbed human talking to you on the internet on a live stream, you are on a live safari. That means exactly what it is. We're about to go on a drive through the middle of the Kruger National Park, a little section on the western fringes called Djuma, Cheetah Plains to the east and Arathusa to the west. And hopefully we'll see some of the spectacular creatures that we have here on offer. The only thing left for me to tell you is that you must please talk to us during the course of the next 3 hours. Hashtag Safari Live or questions at WildEarthTV. And that will give you, access to my ear. Hopefully I'll be able to answer any questions that you have. If I can't, we'll ask Jamie, and if she can't, well, I doubt anyone can. In the final control today, doing all of the sort of complicated mechanical stuff and vision mixing, it's a pleasure to have Geraldine Cheesecake Kent in my ear and Kirsten McLennan-Smith on the keys. Let's go straight across to Jamie and find out how her shadow search is going.
Good morning and welcome to another glorious day here in the African bush. My name is Jamie and I have Willem on camera with me with his hands wrapped up nice and snug and warm, because although we're coming now to the end of winter, there's still a little bit of a nip in the air whenever we set out first thing in the morning. So yesterday afternoon, Willem and myself had a marvelous time out exploring basically the boundary of Djuma and Arathusa, which is our sort of the middle of our traverse area at this point. And we had Tingana up in a tree with a kill. We had a ninja scrub hare that was trying to sneak away from us very, very slowly. And then we had a staring competition with the male lion, who proceeded to give us a perfect example of the amazing sounds that a lion is capable of producing, roaring his way through to the end of the sunset safari. But our night was not over yet. We actually had this amazing experience where I was driving, starting to take us home. We'd left the male lion, and I look in the ground, and on top of every single person's vehicle tracks was a fresh, shiny set of female leopard tracks. So I said to Willem, who took the spotlight from me while I was concentrating on the tracks, she's here, we're going to see her. And lo and behold, we came around a corner. Oh my goodness, it's very bumpy here. We came around the corner, and there was Shadow. Well, actually, there was an Impala, a very unsuspecting Impala, and there was Shadow right behind it, flat to the ground, and proving to be as elusive as she always is, she decided to pop out at the end of the sunset safari. I immediately just killed all of my lights and left the area. I don't think her cub was there, but because she was hunting and because I didn't know, I decided I would leave her be and let her get on with her nightly adventures. And so, my mission for this morning is to go back, see whether she managed to catch those impala, and to see whether or not we can find her, because she has proved to be particularly elusive over the last few days. I'm hoping that we get a chance to see her. Shadow, by the way, is a female leopard who has a 5-month-old cub. And so what we're doing now is we've come to the boundary of Djuma and Arathusa, a road called Triple M, and it's the first place I want to check because it's a main road. It's an access road for all of the lodges from the gate, which means that there's lots and lots of vehicle traffic on it as soon as the morning gets going. So I wanted to beat everybody out here. Kind of the early bird catches the worm principle, except it's the early guide sees the leopard kind of deal. Totally different expression, or at least the early guide gets the tracks. And I'm hoping we might see whether or not she came back across. The fact that she wasn't with her cub, and that she'd lost a kill from Tingana on Arathusa and Simbombili, to me means that if she was successful, there's a good chance she would have had to go back and get her little girl and go back with her. And that's one of the best ways to find a female leopard, is when they've got a kill and they've got cubs, they walk a pathway to go fetch the cubs, and then you'll find their tracks going back almost on top of their tracks, the opposite direction. And that is what I'm hoping for this morning. Now, all in all, exciting things planned for the day ahead. And good morning to Rachel. It is so lovely to have you on board, and Rachel is a new viewer who is joining us. I'm not sure if it's for the first time, but it's definitely the first time I've had a question come through from Rachel. Rachel wants to know, do we do this just to check up on the animals? To an extent, that will serve one of the purposes. If we find that there's some kind of problem with them, whether it is a snare or not, that hardly ever happens, but it did happen once where a young male leopard caught a domestic or a stray dog that had wandered onto this property, and because we'd seen it, we could report it immediately, and he was immediately put into quarantine and then has been released 8 months later. And Rachel, that's a long story, but it's an example of one of the things that we can do, because it turned out that stray dog had rabies. The leopard had a very, very lucky escape because the guides happened to be there. Most of the guides in this area do this to take tourists around so that they get to see and experience the magic of the African bush. That in turn brings in money, which in turn pays for the conservation efforts. And it's not running a reserve like this one is not a cheap experience. There's all kinds of things that go into it behind the scenes that we don't realize, or that perhaps you don't realize. Fence patrols, anti-poaching, maintaining fences, maintaining roads, everything like that costs money. And just again, making it for South Africa, tourism is one of our biggest industries. If we didn't have reserves like this that made money for the communities and created jobs, there's a chance it would be turned into farmland. So that's what an important role tourism actually plays out here. What we do is completely different. What we do, I'm stopping here because otherwise it's going to run away from us, right next to the power lines. Look at this lovely little duiker picking its way through in the morning light. Rachel, what we do, I think, is different but equally important. Because this is live, it allows us to bring what I feel is probably the truest reflection of wildlife to people who either can't go on safari, for whatever means that may be, or perhaps they have been on safari but they obviously can't keep coming back to South Africa so they can enjoy the experience each and every day. But it's also a far more complete way of experiencing the bush, because you can follow an animal's stories for years and years and years, and some of our viewers have. They have come to know each and every individual leopard personally. And why is that important? Well, first of all, documentaries, no matter how ethically they're made, are edited and scripted. We can't do that here, obviously, because the animals dictate the story. And second of all, for me, the most important thing that I feel that we do is that we help people to fall in love with the African bush and hopefully become invested in its future and protect it. And for me, that particularly lies with the school drives that we do, because of course, as we know, the future of the world lies in the hands of the children. So for me, especially to take kids who have never had an opportunity to see stuff like this to inspire, and now I'm going to sound a little bit like Hayden Turner, who of course is absolutely fine, it's a wonderful thing, but to actually spark that interest in children and to get them to love and appreciate nature as it is, I think is the main purpose of what we do. And we're basically emulating a safari experience because you can ask your questions. Red is curious about our unicorn. Red wants to know if it has one horn. It doesn't, Red. It's a female Duiker, but what it has, although it makes it look like a unicorn, is a mohawk. Oh no, look, it's a young male. Sorry, it's a young male. I'm not sure if you could see that. It's got two tiny little horns sticking up on either side of the mohawk. The mohawk is meant to look like a horn. It's meant to look scary. I don't know about you, I'm pretty intimidated. So that's a young male. It's actually got two horns on either side, and then the little mohawk, so its hair sticking up out of the top of its head. We're going to continue on and search for Shadow. I'm really, really hopeful that she was successful last night and we finally get to see her with her cub. In the meantime, let's find out how James's lion search is going.
Well, my lion search is not going fantastically well, I have to say. I haven't found any tracks. I have heard no lions. The sun is about to peep up over the eastern horizon, and I'm just going to turn off here and let's have a little bit of a listen to the dawn chorus. We might also find a bird or two to look at. I saw a chin spot batis flying through here. Unfortunately, Eggsy didn't see it. It's not Eggsy's fault, everybody. Most things are his fault, but this particular incident is not. Okay, let's have a listen for 10 seconds. Let's have a listen for another 10 seconds now that we have the microphone up. It really is yet another very quiet morning, everyone. There are a couple of crombecs calling. Way in the distance, a grey-headed bushshrike. And one or two drongos in the distance, and perhaps a francolin, but otherwise it is almost silent. That of course will change as we go towards the summer. Righty, let us move on. So we're on the northern boundary now. There's a mixed flock of completely indescribable birds. Very nice. What they could have been, everyone, is a mixed flock of widers. Now you know those ones with the long tails. The eastern paradise wider that has a long tail, looks like a little finch. Well, the interesting thing is, of course, in winter they're almost indistinguishable because they look like the females. They lose that very obvious coloration. And now, as we move towards September, as the days get slightly longer, so the coloration of summer, just like a weaver bird, will come back. And I'm hoping that when the great predicted deluge ensues, we will actually have some yellow weavers to show you this year. Not one that I see nesting last year during our drought. Now, Brent and Jamie tracked the lions into this block on our right-hand side there, where my hand is pointing. It is impossible to drive in there, but we might be lucky and find tracks of the lions coming out, either going north, which will make us sad and possibly cry, or, with any luck, on the road, or at Buffelshoek Dam. So that's where we're going to go and see what we can find. I'm astounded we still have signal through this little dip. That's marvellous news. And possibly an appropriate time to introduce, of course, you to the fact that we're not alone on this drive, are we, Eggsy? No, we are not. We have the presence of the anonymous one, aka Connor Teagues, he of the very empty stomach. Connor doesn't like to be on camera, everybody. He's an engineer. Eggsy's going to be in big trouble later. Hello, Tony in Pennsylvania. It's a very appropriate question for this time of the year. You say, what kind of temperature change do we go through during the course of a day? Tony, we go through a temperature change at this time of the year, I think is probably the greatest. Sorry, just 1 second. It started off at 9 degrees Celsius yesterday morning, apparently. It's a bush. And I think it got a lot colder than that in some of the dips, probably down to about 5 degrees Celsius, which is not much more than 41 degrees or so Fahrenheit. But then, in the middle of the day yesterday, I checked my car, I was getting something, and it was 27 degrees Celsius, which is 79, almost 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's about, I think this time of the year, probably the greatest temperature differential. So let's say it went down to 5, that's 22 degrees Celsius, which is quite a lot. Then yesterday, at least not yesterday, in the middle of summer, when it is pushing, say on a really hot day, it'll be 45 degrees Celsius here, so just over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a really hot day. And then, it won't drop below sort of, probably won't drop below 26 at night. So it doesn't change a great deal during the summer, it's just universally beastly hot. Right, we're going down a very bumpy road now, everybody, so hold on tight. Don't spill your coffee on your laps. If you have dentures, a good idea to remove them now. Put them next to you. Don't drop them on the floor, obviously. That would be disgusting. Hello, Space Thing. Space Thing, you say? Is that really your name? Space Thing, you say you're looking forward to seeing these lions. I too am looking forward to seeing these lions. I do hope we see them. I haven't seen any tracks just yet. So they were in the block off there to the right-hand side of where we are now, yesterday. But of course we do know lions move quite a lot during the course of the night, but they do have little ones with them, which means they won't move quite as far as they might have otherwise. Hello, D. Smith. Good morning to you. I hope you have well, please do tell us where you are from. So I hope you're having a good evening or morning, wherever you happen to be. And that just goes for everybody. It's so nice to hear where you're from when we talk to you. D. Smith, that has got nothing to do with what you wanted to know. You wanted to know about the lions. You say you've been to the Tembe Elephant Park, which is a park, everybody, in the northeast corner of what we call KwaZulu-Natal. So on the southern Mozambican border, famous for its elephants. That's why it's called the Elephant Park, Eggsy. And you say the lions there are a slightly different colour. What colour was that, Jerry? P-A-U-P-E, Paup. I don't know what that means. Oh, Tawny, as opposed to golden. I don't know, to be honest, why there'd be a slightly different colour, but for the fact that the soil there is much redder than it is here. There's a lot more iron in the soil. In fact, there's a lot more nutrition in the soil generally in that part of the world. So I think what you'll find is that they pick up the dust. They are the same species. In fact, I'm almost certain that the lions of Tembe Elephant Park are in fact Kruger lions. I don't believe that they are anything other than Kruger lions that were reintroduced to that area, as are most of the lions on many of the private reserves that are not connected to the Kruger. So, you know, they would have been darted and taken from a place like this. I'm now going to move the stick, everybody. I hope I won't embarrass myself. We might have to get Connor's big muscles involved. Luckily, my small ones sufficed this time round. Connor's most relieved. He went pale for a second there. Plug myself back in. Can't do that with my gloves on. Okay, here we go. This is a very, very pleasant morning at the moment. It really does have a feeling of expectation now as we head towards the spring. Just little tendrils of flowers coming out on the knobthorn trees. One or two guarri bushes with their sort of subtle lily-scented flowers. But unfortunately no lion tracks at this stage. A watting contest? Oh, very good question. Aqua, you want to know who would win an eating competition between Connor and Jamie? Jamie is impressive, I've got to tell you, she can eat a lot. And with seemingly no effect on her body whatsoever. Connor, I'm afraid though, wins hands down. If I was in camp yesterday doing some things, you know, I wasn't out on drive, and you know, every 3 minutes or so you'd hear the clink of cutlery and crockery, and that would be Connor emerging from his room to have another snack. A bowl of cereal, perhaps some fruit, a tin of tuna, a leftover piece of pork belly from lunch, plate of yogurt, a chocolate, something like that. Banana, fruit, or one of the supplements he has in his room. I think he takes them mainly because they make him feel less hungry. It's quite nice having the camera here because it's a barrier beyond which he won't pass, so I can basically insult him at will, and he won't come past it to mete out physical trauma on me until he knows we're not live. I may just pretend to be live for the rest of the day. Now, people, I cannot find any sign of the lions, so we're going to go to Buffelshoek Dam. We'll have a look around there. I suspect I would have seen the tracks crossing here because it's a big pride. While I do that, let's go across to Jamie and get an update on how her shadow tracking is going.
I hear there has been much discussion around our eating habits. Certainly Connor and myself, I think, have earned a little bit of a reputation around camp in terms of the amount that we eat. I'll say I'm willing to concede that Connor eats more than I do. Just in terms of, as James said, that constant snacking. I'm just going to pull over and let poor Sean come past me because I'm driving roughly at the rate of a snail. So let me just let him come through. Oh, we're still on the lookout for Shadow. She hasn't crossed Triple M. Cheers. Enjoy. Thanks very much. Please, yeah. Cool. Thank you very much. Sean and his wonderful tracker, Reef. Reef and I have had some wonderful long conversations about where the different animals are and what's happening and what he thinks is going on with Shadow. And so on. So she hasn't crossed... Oh, I need to sneeze, sorry. We're now trailing behind Sean and his dust cloud. It's stuck. And there's no sun for me to look at. Right, anyway, so she hasn't crossed Triple M, which is good. That was the first place I wanted to start, was to check the main road, because that's the... As I said this morning, that's the first place people are going to drive, and the first place they're going to drive over tracks, especially transfer vehicles and so on, bringing people into the lodges. They don't know what to look for, and they don't know what they're doing in terms of driving over tracks, and then we have a devastating morning where you spend ages scratching around one area, and it turns out the animal's on the completely opposite side of the reserve. The Arathusa guides and some of the guides in the west are also quite jealous we've had so many lions. And Natasha, I think Natasha's on the same page we all are, which is that she would love to see a Shadow and Zara. Zara, of course, is the unofficial name that James Hyena? No. Sorry. Natasha, we'll get back. Okay, cool. Perfect. Thank you. I trust Liam's judgment call completely in terms of him being able to see that side as well, which also helps. I'm far too short. And Natasha said she wants to see Shadow and Zara. I do too. I really, really, really do too. It feels like it's been an incredibly long time since we last saw the cub that is unofficially called Zara. I quite like the name Zara. But it all stems from James's tendency to name the royal lineage of Karula after the royal family. Of course, for a long time, Karula's cubs' unofficial names were George and Charlotte, and Shadow, as the daughter of Karula, and therefore therefore the little one is Karula's granddaughter, has been called Zara. Anyway, her name is not officially Zara. We managed to speed up the process of the naming of Karula's cubs. Generally, a leopard out here will not get its name until it is a year old, at which point its chances of survival dramatically increase. But we were able to expedite that process when it came to the naming of Karula's cubs, just because we were concerned that unofficial names might start to stick and there would be confusion, as there was with Sindile, who then became Madiba, who then became Sindile again, and it all got very confusing. But Shadow, I think her cub will probably remain without an official name until she's a year old. Checking this junction very carefully. And Christopher in Arizona, lovely to hear from you. Christopher's asked a question that I can't answer, which is, has Sindile given up on trying to reconnect with Shadow? My instinct, Christopher, is that no, he hasn't, not yet. And that's borne out by the update that Gerry's given us. He is moving. He's moving long distances and he's moving under pressure because he's a young male leopard, and that's what they do. They seek a vacuum somewhere where they can feel safe and secure once they disperse. However, he has spent, because we only get the GPS points, so we don't know where he's moved in the time in between those GPS points. And to me, it seems as though he's spent a lot of time in what is known as his natal range, where he was born, the place that he knows, and the place that Shadow is spending a lot more time in. Whether or not that means he is trying to reconnect with his mom still, I don't know. He's a young male. He's not quite... Well, he's coming up to 2 years old now. Hello, Impala. Don't suppose you've seen a leopard in your long, dark evening. All bright red and fluffy. I don't think this is the herd that she was hunting last night. I think that herd is a little bit further to the north. But you never know. She was definitely targeting the Impala. And both Shadow and Karula have done exceptionally well recently in terms of hunting and catching adult Impala, which for a female leopard, is no mean feat. They weigh just a little bit more than the Impala, and the Impala are very strong and very fast. But what that does mean is that, especially for Shadow, who's always seemed to have a little bit of a problem lifting things into trees, or hoisting them, as we call it officially, it does mean for Shadow that she's lost quite a few kills recently as well. Young males, a lovely mixture of a breeding herd here. We've got a complete switch in the last 2 months from when the males were still chasing the females around. We had the bachelor groups all on their own, and then the females with one big ram that was keeping them corralled and chasing them around and making lots and lots of noise. The noise has died down. Every now and again one male gets a bit confused and starts chasing females for a little bit, or fighting with another male. But for the most part, the breeding season is over, and it's time for... Oh, hold on. Having just said that... oh. That was relatively anticlimactic. Looked like the two young males were going to have a little bit of a scrap. They've decided breakfast is far more important. And I'm actually going to leave our Impala and keep going. Christopher, I don't know. We don't really know the answer to your question about whether or not Sindile is still trying to reconnect with Shadow. From his tracks, in the last 2 weeks, 2 weeks ago, he seemed to be spending a lot of time where Shadow's tracks were, but we miss so much of their day-to-day lives that we can only guess at what kind of interactions they're having. And Aaron in Scotland, lovely to have you on board with us. Aaron wants to know how old the leopard is that we are talking about, and since I've glossed over so many leopards, let's just go one by one. Shadow is the oldest daughter of Karula, alongside her twin sister Tundi. She is now close to 10 years old. In fact, she must be very close to 10 years old at this point. Her cub is 5-ish months old, and Sindile is coming up to 2 years old at this point. In fact, he must be very close to 2. If not, he might even be 2 years old already. Somewhere around here that he turned... No, he's coming up to 2 years old. Sorry. I had a bit of a confusion about where we are in the year. But we're in August, so he can't quite be 2 just yet. And bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to hop on the Game Drive comms, and then I'll explain a little bit further. Morning, I know that James is trying to follow up on Ingala around Gurry Cut Line. I'm checking Zoe's M to see if there's any sign of Shadow from where she crossed in last night. There was also a report of one Fuzzy Ingwe on the dam camera around early yesterday evening. Okay, copy that, thanks. I've checked M, but I've only checked Gowrie Main up until Zoe's Road, so I haven't checked the rest of it. We're just planning our search and the way that we're going to approach the morning. Make sure that we spread our attention so that we don't end up checking the same places, and we can spread out as efficiently as possible. And for Aaron, and for our new viewers like Rachel, it gets a bit confusing, and don't worry, I know that our regular viewers are always ready to jump on board and explain exactly how everything works and has unfolded. But essentially, Karula has been a very, very successful mother. She's a female leopard that is dominant in Djuma and the surrounding area. But as with most female leopards, she's given portion of her territories to her 2 daughters, to Shadow and Tundi. Shadow has had far less success than her mother in terms of raising cubs. Her last cub was Sindile, who was the one that caught the dog, the rabid dog, and ended up in quarantine. And she now has one little cub called, well, unofficially called Zara. Standing by. This is where she was hunting the Impala. Let's just check very, very carefully. I have this dream that one day I'm going to come around the corner, that she's going to be in that big Balanites tree, which I'll show you in a moment. Oh, that would have changed things. And I'll show you what I mean, which is interesting because that wasn't the direction he was going in last night. But that definitely would have changed things. Not tracks of a female leopard, but a much, much larger cat. And that's the male lion that we were with yesterday. Exactly where I left her. Now I'm just taking my earpiece out for a second. I want to try and figure out exactly what happened here. It's a pity, because if she did make a kill last night and that male lion walked past, there is a very, very good chance that he would have stolen it from her, and there'd be no evidence remaining, particularly with an impala. He probably would have taken it from her if he'd found her. But leopards, leopards especially, very, very good at remaining hidden and subtle in their ways. So the male lion, he was going in completely the opposite direction. He was close to here when we left him, but he wasn't going this way. This is his track here. This is the back of his foot and his toes, going off towards the southern section of the reserve. This is exactly where we saw Shadow, pretty much exactly. This is where we saw the impala that she was hunting. She was flat and crouched behind that termite mound over there. Okay, our search just became slightly harder, but that's okay. Never to be deterred by a challenge. We will carry on and see if we can't figure out exactly where it is that she's gone. Oh my goodness, my earpiece has done a complicated thing here. There we go. I'm surprised. It's not where I expected that male lion to go, but he must have heard something that attracted his attention. And now we drive at a snail's pace, so as not to miss a hint of what occurred here. Poor Shadow would have been very unimpressed with that, although we don't know what time he walked past. Speaking of our leopards and they're the impala that were here last night. Sorry. They're quite far into the vegetation, but you can just see the streaks of red there and some movement. So those are the impala that we saw last night. I can almost guarantee that. Goodness, figuring out where she's going to go. As I said, I would love, one day it will happen that I come around the corner and there's a leopard in this tree, rather than Brent or James, who seem to have a special affinity for climbing it. But one day there will be a leopard in there, staring down at us from the comfort of its branches. Hasn't happened yet, but it has to at some point. Statistically, if we drive past this tree enough times, at some point there's going to be a leopard there. Mara Lee, talking of our leopards, are there enough male leopards to produce offspring with the different females around the area that are not related to them? Yes, there are for now. Tingana is not related to Kurula or to Shadow or to Tundi, and he is the dominant male that mates with them. Of course, they do mate with different males in the area. However, a little bit of inbreeding amongst cats does happen every now and again, the big cats. Sometimes the females mate with their fathers, or however it happens to play out, and that's okay. For 1 or 2 generations, it's not ideal, but it's absolutely okay, and it doesn't harm the cats at all. I'm going to keep checking this very, very carefully. In fact, I'm actually probably going to get off and go for a walk. While I do that, let's go across to James and find out how his tracking adventures are going.
We found some lion tracks, everybody. A male and a female, looks like a mating pair, quite possibly Amber Eyes and her consort. They came down Central Road and then they went off north towards Buffelshoek Dam. We haven't got there yet, and so we're on our way round. They may or may not be sort of secluded or secreted up in this drainage system over here. Perhaps they have found some privacy over there, because Amber Eyes has been sort of half-heartedly mating now. This is probably the 4th time we've seen her try and conceive. It's obviously not a conscious process, or doesn't seem to be. It's purely instinctual based on the hormones that are coursing through her body. So maybe she will give birth this time. And I'm pretty sure that there were 3 with cubs. Pretty sure the other is pregnant, and I think Amber Eyes remains the only one that isn't at the moment. Eggsy, what tracks are those there? Ooh. Ooh. Right, so we have tracks of a female lion, which I shall show you once I've checked that she isn't about to devour me from behind the bush as I get out of the car. And as I get out of the car, just listen to the white-browed scrub robin calling there. Can you see down here, Eddie? Not there. How hopeless. I thought I'd given you enough space. Can you see here, Eggsy? Here's the track, everyone. Possibly Amber Eyes. The 2 of them. There and there. And she's obviously moving that way. Can you see the track at all? Not really. Not much contrast in the light, I'm afraid. But it's about the size of the palm of my hand. I don't have a very big hand. But a male is substantially larger, about the size of my whole hand. So I think this is the same lioness that's popped out here. She came in the drainage system and popped out on the road here. Let's see where she goes. I'm not convinced that they're that fresh. I think they're probably from yesterday evening sometime. And of course they can go very far. Righty, on we go. I'm just listening to the Game Drive channel. It is on open communication, so if you hear a voice, it's not because you're going mad, it's because you're hearing the Game Drive channel. She's still going straight along the road here. Just make sure that it is, in fact, it is. Yes. Don't see any cubs. Oh, but there's a male lion going the other way. That's not fresh. No, she's turned round here. No, she hasn't. It's fine. Okay. Let us hope we're lucky. We have seen 1 or 2 nyala. What? My earpiece. Is she talking to me, Eggsy? What is she saying? Geraldine, go ahead. Sorry, I do apologize. I didn't plug myself in. Hello, Sue in the UK. You ask a very good question, to which I suspect you'll be fairly surprised by the answer. You say your son wants to become a ranger. What's the first step? And do you have to have some acting skills to be a presenter? I'm going to answer the first question first. The second one is rather amusing. Sue, the first question is, she's turned around here. We didn't miss her, did we, Eggsy? Connor, have you been looking for the lion? Okay, let's just carry on around the corner here and see if that's not where they did turn round. Sue, there's a difference between a ranger and a guide. A ranger ostensibly is somebody who does much more the conservation work. They do land management, they'll maintain roads in an area like this, they'll patrol for poachers, and they spend their time in the field doing actual kind of conservation work. Then you get a sort of, then you get what I trained to be, which is a guide. I trained to do both, but guiding is essentially what we're doing now, and for that you can do various courses around here, but basically if you want to be a good guide, the main criterion is that you like people. If you want to be a guide, it's a human job. It's not a wildlife job. I know people think of it as a wildlife job, but it's a human job that you do in the bush. And yes, of course, you have to be interested in nature, but it's largely a personal interaction job. Then the job that I'm doing now, I don't think it requires acting skills. I'll tell you why. It's because we're not really acting so much as we are presenting, and acting by its very nature is inauthentic, if you know what I mean. So if I was acting now, I think you'd like I wasn't acting there, I nearly fell out the car. I think you'd find that acting for something like this would come across very forced. So it's very much an authentic thing, but it is a question of enjoying presenting, enjoying being in front of the camera, and so I suppose an enjoyment of acting would be helpful, but I don't think you need to be a skillful actor to do what we do. So Sue, the first step would be for your son to probably do some kind of biological qualification. If he's got the intellectual capacity and want, then I would send him off to do biology at university for 3 years or so, but he doesn't have to do that. But it's probably a good idea. And then you come out here and you can do any number of courses, some of them particularly poor, some good ones, so do your research thoroughly, and he can either become a guide or in one of the private reserves here, hundreds of them, and I know that there are a lot of foreign, seems strange saying foreign, but yes, there are a lot of foreign people doing guiding right now. In fact, the head ranger of Londolozi just down the road is from Bermuda. So there are lots of different nationalities driving around the South African lowveld as guides. So you can do that. If he wants to do real conservation work, game ranging, walking the bush, patrolling, maintaining fences and that sort of stuff, well, then he's going to have to do a little bit or very different training. That's a bit more difficult to find, and the best way to do that, I think, is probably to find a mentor, some kind of experienced game ranger who can point him in the right direction. So that's, in a long-winded way, your son's best option, I suppose. To do what I do now versus just sort of standard issue guiding is, well, I'm still plugged in, is requires, I would say, at least 3 years of experience, just because you have to talk about quite a lot of stuff, because you do have a very experienced group of people on the back of the car. I'm just going to call these tracks in. Stations, tracks of this female lion came out on Drakensberg Road between Central and Guaripan. She walked north for a while, then turned around and walked back south. I'm just going to check Borsuk Dam, and then I'll go back into that area. There we go. My duty is done. Taxon and Aubrey are coming around in this area, so they'll help me. Hello, Black Rose. A very good question from you, a very astute question. You say, have we ever thought about doing this around the world in different places? Absolutely. It's in the pipeline. The thing is, it does, of course, take quite a substantial amount of funding to set up an operation like this all over the, in the different wildlife hotspots of the world. A certain amount of infrastructure and that sort of thing. And I mean, this has taken a long time to set up. And I mean, while we're not near perfect, I think we've probably got an idea of I say we, I mean the people who actually know what they're talking about. We've got the technical know-how now to probably be able to do it in most places. And we're experimenting in different parts. You know that Brent went up to Rwanda to do a test there. We might be going to Kenya fairly soon to do a test there. Just very much a test, though. There's no going to, so the idea is to expand into other areas. It's much, much warmer than yesterday. Hello, Doug in Arizona. You say that you've been watching since 2005. Well, thank you very much for that. And that the guides are constantly complaining about the temperature, and that's probably not a very good thing for tourism. I think it's more commenting than complaining. This low-felt area that we're in here has got probably the best temperature or best climate in the country, especially as far as the winter goes. It's the most magnificent way to spend a winter. Clear blue skies for 3 months at a time. Very pleasant temperatures in the middle of the day. I suppose, Doug, it's got to do with the chilly morning and something to talk about. It's all around us, the weather all the time. So I think that's why we talk about it as much as we do. I don't mean to complain. I do apologize if that's how it's coming across. But I promise you the climate here is delightful. Now we are approaching the dam, but I don't see further tracks here. I wonder if they didn't go to the dam and then leave it again after a drink of the muddy water. And some elephant tracks, fresh on the end of World Elephant Day yesterday. We don't have a World Day. I'm sure it is a World Day of something today, but it's not elephants. And of course yesterday we found out that the 14th of October is World Eggs Day. And since then, Eggsy's been unable to speak. He's been so excited with his plans for what he's going to do on the 14th of October. It's like a second birthday for him now. Eggsy, when is your real birthday?
End of March.
End of March. 2 birthdays in 1 year. Lucky you. Kathy in Tennessee, you've noticed how different the bush looks. So if Eggsy pans off to the right-hand side, if you don't mind, Eggsy, I don't mean to trouble you, I know you're very comfortable on the back there. You can see there that we can see into, don't worry too much about the quality of the shot. You can see that we can see into the bush, and Kathy, you say that's because the elephants have pushed things over. It is to some extent, Kathy, but it's also because of the fact that the elephants have, the season has denuded the trees of their leaves, which means it does look a bit more open. But that said, yes, when we go into the summer, it will become a lot thicker. And you say, how long will it take before before the bush recovers, if you like, from the elephant damage? It doesn't ever recover because it's in a constant state of flux. So it's not actually damaged. It's much more just in a constant state of flux, and the drier it is, the more trees will be pushed over, and then we'll have these wet seasons and the trees will come up, and some of them are quite fast growing. But I don't think that this place will ever look the same 1 year to the next. There will always be a subtle difference. Right, let's have a look here at the water's edge, where there is absolutely nothing going on. Eggsy, do you see that? Some Egyptian geese shouting at each other. Connor told me very confidently as he got on the car today that he always has good luck. Well, where that is today, Connor. I can just see something shining through there. Just going to look through there with my binoculars. It is very bright, of course, because we're staring straight into the sun. Hang on a second, everybody. I'll get it right eventually. One doesn't want to just put the binoculars willy-nilly to one's eyes when staring due east into the morning sun. One will become blinded. I just thought I may have seen the white underside of a lion's belly, but I have not. Alrighty, well, we turn round and keep trying with fortitude. hang on. There are the Egyptian geese. I think they're probably going to fly back over here. Here. There are 4 of them. 4 angry Egyptian geese coming over. They're so very cross with each other. No, let's turn around here and we'll carry on down back towards where those lion tracks were. I think they're from last night, so I don't think they're that fresh, but we might find her lying up somewhere or perhaps devouring a buffalo. We know also, of course, that there was a leopard seen at the Djuma Dam Cam last night, so we might be lucky and pick up tracks of Karula and her little ones a little bit later. Who knows? As the old cliche goes, you never know what's going to be around the next corner. Hello Sandy, you want me to drive past where we saw the injured buffalo yesterday? I'm afraid I can't because I don't know where that was, but Jamie can. I think she was probably quite close to where it was yesterday, and yeah, it'd be a good idea to find out if he's still around, or if he has shaken off this mortal coil. It's interesting, you know, Jamie reckoned that was a different buffalo from the one that we saw being attacked the other day, and I think she may well be correct, but we didn't find that one that we saw being attacked the other day around the Galago Pan. The 4 lionesses seemed to have almost killed him when they got too tired. They eventually just got too tired and left him alone, but he had blood all over him, he had been raked to pieces, he had bite marks all over his back, and we didn't see him again the next day. So that was either the same buffalo or another buffalo that suffered a similar fate, that managed to escape the lions just through the fact that he's so big that the lions become tired. And I think it's 4 lionesses on 1 buffalo bull is a pretty even match. So sometimes they'll succeed, but ideally they'd want to have a male with them. He's just that much stronger. Let's pop up onto the top here, and I want you to have another listen to the dawn chorus. Well, now there's male lion track going down this way, but they are not fresh. Ooh. Female going back the way. It's all rather confusing. I think this is the same female that we had pop out there, and she's turned around and she's gone back. While I try and figure out what's going on here, everybody, let's go across to Jamie and get an update from her.
For now, we have temporarily put our search for Shadow on hold. I did find your tracks, but we'll come back to that in a moment. We've just got a report that wild dogs have come racing across from Simbombili onto Djuma, and now it's up to us to try and figure out exactly where they have gone. They've come through to Impala Plains area to stop and have a look and just see what the animals are doing. We had one lone female Impala. I don't know where she's gone now. We've also got some Kudu who look relatively relaxed, but the female Impala did not. She looked terrified. She was breathing fast. She looked a lot like an Impala does when they've just run away from wild dogs. They are alert. They're not completely relaxed. They keep looking off in that direction. Okay, we can't stop for too long. We can't delay for too long. Wild dogs are fast. So sorry, lovely Kudu. Sorry. Let me come through. Hey, girl. Are they... Well, there you go. This is for Love 3 Dogs, who is asking for an update on where the wild dogs are. This is, from what we know, this is the 3 of them from the remaining members of the lower Sabi pack that have been spending a lot of time in this area. nothing is known about the den site in Ottawa of the Sands pack, so we actually don't have that many updates on our usual wild dog packs that we see. We see two, the Sands pack and the Investic pack, and then occasionally we get breakaway packs or something similar. Okay, I wonder, oh goodness, which way is going to be best? I think let's take Vuetela main access and try and race along here. It's a tricky thing finding these wild dogs. They don't sit still, especially this time in the morning. They're looking for food. Let's try and find that Impala herd that female came from, because they'll tell us a little bit about where we should start looking. So love 3 dogs. I wish I had more to tell you, but it seems as though at least the 3 of them have come running through to this in this direction. And wild dogs are so exciting. We get incredibly excited whenever we hear that there are wild dogs in the area. They're fast, they're incredibly endangered, critically endangered, and very, very special animals. They're exciting, they get the heart racing. And animals around here, things like Impala, they don't even bother to alarm call when they see wild dogs. There's no time for that. It's just run. Just run and hope that they don't attract their attentions, or that they're the lucky ones this time. Because wild dogs are not like lions or leopards. They don't try and sneak up on their prey and then ambush them. They run them down. They course through the bush until something runs away in front of them, and then they go racing after it, chasing it down with their incredible stamina and their speed, and they just keep running until the animal that they're chasing or pursuing can't run any further. There's some Impala here. I don't see any panic-stricken tracks on the road. Often you can see whether or not an Impala has been galloping off along a road. There's another lone female Impala. I think we're on the right track. Let's go to Sydney's Dam. Unless they've caught something. But we should, if they've caught something in this area, we should hear the twittering, yelping sounds that wild dogs make while they're feeding. And we should have heard that by now. I think they're going to Buffelshoek Cutline. There's a special feel to the air when a wild dog has come through. I haven't smelt them yet, but it is a little bit windy today, so I might miss this. The wind might blow the smell away. Wild dogs are really, really distinctive in terms of the scent that they give off. It smells a lot like, I don't know, wet, a little bit like wet dog, wet, very dirty dog. I love that smell. It's not an unpleasant smell. It's a smell that spells excitement. Tina, lovely question coming through from you, which is wondering whether or not they would be vaccinated against canine distemper, this particular group, since that is what killed the rest of the pack. Tina, I don't know the full details into what plan they are implementing, but I do know that there were plans being put forward to vaccinate all of the wild dogs of an area. I believe that the ones in the Sabi Sand are vaccinated against canine distemper. That being said, I've just recently read of a wild dog pack in the Kalahari, on a lovely place called Swalu, and those poor wild dogs had just been introduced, vaccinated against canine distemper, and they died of canine distemper anyway. No, it's not 100% effective, but yes, there are plans to vaccinate the dogs. It's a difficult one. It's one of those areas where we really do step in and interfere to an extent, because canine distemper is naturally occurring. And I say that because those dogs on Swalu are so far away from any kind of stray dog that they must have contracted it from something like a jackal or a bat-eared fox. They cannot have contracted it from a domestic dog. But we interfere in this particular instance because wild dogs are so critically endangered, and they're so critically endangered because of human actions. I'm going to keep searching to try and figure out where these animals have gone. While we do, let's go back to James and find out what life is like at Buffelshoek Dam.
I'm very confused, everybody. There are lion tracks going up and down all over the place, and I'm afraid I've got no idea what their sort of final termination point will be. We're going to keep looking, but in the meantime, some beautiful kudu heading into Torchwood, which is the reserve to the east of us. We are now on the far eastern fringes of Djuma. A nice little herd of 2 or 3 females and a young bull. And they're quite well hidden there in amongst the leaves of the round-leafed teak. And we were talking about the elephants and the change that they make to the vegetation here, and you can see very clearly that the bushes here, the round-leaf teak, is maintained at that height by the elephants here. In the absence of elephants, these funny scraggly bushes that you're looking at now grow into big trees like the marula tree you can see there. Eggsy, we still have a kudu over there, you'll see that down there. It's the one with the ears again. That's it. It's in the sun. Yeah, it's the one. Beautifully backlit by the golden copper of the sun shining through the round-leaf teak. Eggsy, I might be tempted to take a photograph. No, not anymore. The picture's going to be interrupted slightly here. Alrighty, there's a lovely kudu picture, but Jamie has got a flying, what it described as the other day, death in the sky.
That's a very dramatic description of a lovely bird, but I suppose that's very true. And actually, Viam just said to me earlier that he enjoys filming eagles because they are like the cats of the sky. I guess that does make total sense. I'm just having a look at this particular eagle. I've stopped, actually, because sometimes birds of prey will actually follow behind the wild dogs to pick up any scraps that they know might be around. And in this case, this particular bird might be no different. It is a dark tawny eagle, from what I can see. I can't see if it's got a yellowish eye. It does seem to have a dark eye. So my guess is it's a dark tawny eagle. They come in lots and lots of different colors. Almost, it's the one other bird that you could confuse it with is a steppe eagle. But the steppe buzzards and the steppe eagles have not yet, well, they might have started, but they have not yet completed their migration back to South Africa from all the way from Russia and Europe. So a tawny eagle surveying the air around, or the land around him, and silence. There's not an impala, there's not a kudu, there's not one thing around us. No tracks. I don't know where these wild dogs have gone, but we're going to keep trying, we're going to keep looking for them. Hooded vultures, tawny eagles, and sometimes bandoliers actually fly behind wild dogs. They know that wild dogs have got such a high success rate in terms of the kills that they make, that they are in for a very good chance of being able to flutter down and pick up whatever the wild dogs leave behind. It's an interesting tactic, it's an interesting technique. They won't do that really to many of the other predators. Okay, there's another terrified looking, or no, not terrified looking, there's one very focused looking impala. Let's just go see. And often wild dogs, when they're running, because they've got those long legs that take enormous strides, a lot of the time they barely touch the road. You'll get one track that's just bounced through and moved off. Excuse me, impala. Have you seen some wild dogs by any chance? These guys don't look too stressed out. They're dashing across the road, but mainly just because the herding instinct is telling them to go that way. One of them started running, so they all did. What do you see? Just me? Nope. Okay, no wild dogs here. Nevin, you've been hearing us chatting away on the Game Drive channel, And Nevin wants to know, if we spot something like tracks or an animal, do we have to call it in on the Game Drive channel? Yes, essentially, yes we do. And we do that for a couple of reasons. One is it's a professional courtesy and it's politeness, and we know, we've all been guides with guests before, we all know what the job entails and how sometimes it can be unbelievably stressful when you've got guests for 2 days that want to see everything that the reserve has to offer. You are under pressure, so it is sometimes it's just polite, really, because sometimes Taxon will call us into a sighting, sometimes we'll call him into a sighting. We never ever hide sightings from each other or tracks. The reason we call tracks in is because often, if a person is in the area as well, they can help you look and relocate that animal. They become very, very useful in helping you track down that creature that you're looking for. So now, for example, with the wild dogs, I'm listening to my Game Drive comms, waiting to see whether anybody is in the area that have picked up tracks. Come on, wild dogs. And a guide might perhaps not be looking for that particular set of tracks, but if you tell them that, hey, there's leopard tracks going towards that road, then they can actually save you a huge amount of time, because then they can say, okay, you can stop looking in that area because the tracks are now here. Come to this side and continue your search that way. So yes, we will always call in whatever we can find, whatever we have found. Sometimes we'll wait a little bit in terms of tracks, and the reason that we do that is we're just trying to figure out exactly where those tracks have gone before we send somebody on a wild goose chase. But if we delay, it's just simply because we're making sure we've established what's going on. And the same goes for if we have a sighting. We'll find something, we'll establish the sighting, we'll get in, we'll gauge the animal's mood. The first thing you do when you see an animal, like a leopard or a lion or an elephant, before you pick up your Game Drive channel and you call it in, is you go and you look and you see how that animal is feeling. Are they on edge today? Would they be better off not having other vehicles with them? Do they have cubs with them? Because that determines how many vehicles will be allowed to come into the sighting. And so on and so forth. So if there is a delay, that's just why. The other reason we sometimes delay is because we don't know where we are. If we're off-road, we're trying to figure out exactly how to direct somebody into the sighting. Happened to me once or twice, I have to be honest. You start going, I took the 3rd road west. Dispatch, speaking of our radio communication, we had an interesting chat yesterday about calling lions fuzzies on the Game Drive channel, and of course with much confusion on my part before it was pointed out to me that it was in fact the word mafuzzy, which means female. So welcome, Dispatch, I'm glad you're enjoying the ride. No fuzzies today. No fuzzies, just tracks of fuzzies, and there's lots of different fuzzies around. And on that note, let's go and find out how James's search for the fuzzies is going.
Sorry everybody, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on here. Sounds like lions, but I don't think they're with us. I think they're on Biffle's Hook. Please go again with that position. Tax, come in. I'm just going to find out from Taxon where those lions were seen. Go ahead, Tax. What was the position of that sighting? Okay, copy. Yeah, it's the Styx Pride, everybody. You may have heard that. It sounds like they've killed a buffalo, but at Nkoro, which we do not drive to. I'm going to do a quick look in this spot here where I thought I saw the white belly of a lion earlier. The tracks do head in this direction. I've been constantly amazed by the lack of buffalo here recently. Gary, you say how far is Lion Rock from the Sabi Sands, and do they still rescue lions? Gary, I have to confess to not having the faintest clue about what you're talking. I'm afraid I don't know about Lion Rock, so I will get someone in the final control to try and have a look-see, but I'm not sure where Lion Rock is or what they do. No, there are no tracks here. Apparently it's a big cat sanctuary near Bethlehem. No, we certainly are nowhere near there, and I've got no idea how it operates. Bethlehem is a long way from where we are. Obviously not the same Bethlehem in Nazareth. This is a Bethlehem in the Free State. No, I don't think I did see the white belly of a lion here, everyone. Clearly it was just a reflection or a mirage brought on by the desperate desire to see a lion. Oh well, you know, I'm sure we'll see some stage. Eggsy, don't worry. What we can do though is just stop and have a little bit of a listen. Remains very silent. There's one or two chin spot batises going. A couple of francolins still, and way in the distance, a bearded woodpecker. On we go. Hello, Tony Blah. We were looking for ostriches yesterday, and you said, did we have any luck finding them? Tony, I'm afraid we didn't find any ostriches, so I didn't get a chance to try the Australian emu attraction technique, which I'm not going to do here, because it would be wasted. There are no ostriches, but when we next see an ostrich, I'll absolutely do it. No, there are no lions in this immediate vicinity. Ooh, it's quite interesting. Look, they're mating. Those two blacksmith lapwings. Let's just watch them. Look at that, preparing for summer. See, that's quite a bright shot. Ah, there we go. That is the blacksmith lapwing, and as we head towards September, like I said, the birdies are going to become increasingly amorous with each other. I've never seen that before, everyone. That's the first time. There are three of them, you know. There's another one flying around above. Perhaps a jealous and scorned lover that must now go and find someone else. And also there, the little bird there, Eggsy, is a three-banded plover. There we are. You might also vaguely be able to hear in the background the greater blue-eared glossy starling. I can actually see it, but we don't have the zoom lens or the super zoom, so we're not going to try and show it to you with the small lens. And that little plover will be looking for snails and other little invertebrates that live in the water. And unlike the hippos, of course, these aquatic birds can fly off when the water eventually does dry out. But still they too will feel the pressure, especially as the migrants start to return, hopefully expecting new summer life. But until the rains come, that's not going to happen. Right, wonderful. Let's move on. Ah, good point. Virginia, you're in Kentucky and you say you don't recall seeing falcons on drive before. We don't see them very often. Brent had a European hobby, if I'm not mistaken, sometime, it was probably very early this year, I think he had a European hobby. That's one of the falcon species that we get. I'm not sure if it... Did he get it on camera? I think they did get it on camera, you know, but it came whizzing past quickly, and then I think they got a bit of a look of it, and then it was gone again. But the other two potential falcons that you can see out here are the Lanner falcon and the peregrine falcon, neither of which are common. I've seen Lanner around here before. I've never seen a peregrine falcon around here. You know, they're just not... I guess there's too much competition from other predatory birds, you know. I did see a Lanner on my last leave, though, in the hills of KwaZulu-Natal. Now we're going to look at the road here and just see if we can't tell where on earth those tracks went. Might be lucky, but it's rather confusing. Aubrey and Ephraim from Cheetah Plains are looking around here as well. Who knows? Who knows? Then I think what we'll probably do is head down towards the south and see if that wonderful queen of Djuma hasn't crossed back onto here. And we might be lucky there too. I can't believe that. I think those wild dogs probably popped across here, leapt to Sydney's dam, and then went straight into the Manyeleti. That tends to be what they do. So, a bit sad that we didn't manage to see them. Eggsy, you don't see any form of animal life, do you, that we can show people? Impala, perhaps? Bird? Snail would do at this stage. See any snails? It's getting a little desperate. Now Jamie yesterday had the most crazy sighting that we don't normally get here. And James Richard, you want me to play you the call of the bird that she saw yesterday, the trumpeter hornbill. Now that's very unusual for these parts. Here these lion tracks again. Let me stop and just see if there isn't a bird alarm calling or something while I play you the call of the trumpeter hornbill. The call of the trumpeter hornbill, of course, can be likened to that of a baby crying. It's quite disturbing if you don't know what it is. For hornbill. Come now. Yes. There we go. Right. Here he is, everybody. James Richard, are you ready? Don't be distressed. This is not a child calling, it is the bird. It's the most mournful, dreadful sound, isn't it? But it's unmistakable. Eggsy, if you heard that, you'd be very nervous, wouldn't you? You'd think that someone was dying. I think I had a girlfriend who used to cry like that sometimes. It was very disconcerting. Never mind. Let's go to Jamie before I say something ridiculous.
I'm having a good chuckle just hearing some of the things that James has been espousing on this morning. I don't know where these wild dogs have gone. I can't find a track. I've found lots and lots of very relaxed looking impala. They appear to have vanished into thin air. I think for now, there's a good chance that they've gone into Buffelshoek. I think for now what we're going to do is we're going to continue on with our search for Shadow and maybe even try and look for Karula. But as you know, our live safaris, nothing goes as planned. I have absolutely no idea where anything is at this point. The wild dogs have pulled a runner, as they generally do. And Shadow has disappeared into a block. Basically what a block means, by the way, is a patch of bush between, or a patch of vegetation that is between the roads. She's disappeared into a block that she loves. That's where I found the tracks, by the way. They'd been trodden on by an elephant, which is why it took me a while to find them. But it's taken, once upon a time, we had 4 guides in that particular patch of vegetation, all looking for Shadow for 4 hours without any success. So we've got to hope that perhaps she's sitting on a termite mound or something similar, giving us a chance to spot her. I mean, Tingana was very kind to us yesterday when he stood up on the branch of the tree that he was sitting in and made his outline very clear. Perhaps Shadow will be kind enough to do the same. And we might bump into the wild dogs. I don't know what direction they've gone in. And one of the things that I've been trying to do is stop and listen every now and again, because I mentioned earlier that they twitter around a carcass and they beg each other. But Ginny has asked whether or not wild dogs will howl like wolves. And of course they are related to wolves, true canine species. They don't howl, but they've got a beautiful mournful, oh dear, we're still talking about mournful calls. They have got a beautiful mournful sound that goes something like this. Whoop, whoop, whoop. So it's not quite a howl, and it's the opposite. Instead of lifting their heads up to the sky, they actually stand and bounce the sound off the ground when they make that call. And it's a contact call between the different groups. And what's actually, I mean, now both James and I are moving into something very sad, but the wild dog pack, this Lower Sabi pack, they're the 3 remaining members. The rest of them were wiped out by canine distemper, including the pregnant alpha female with 18 pups. Utterly tragic, a serious blow for an animal species that is tremendously threatened and under pressure in terms of their population numbers. But this poor pack calls constantly. The remaining 3 members, James had them calling, and I've spoken to some of the other guides, and they've also said that they've heard lots and lots. Every time they see them, they're calling. Let's go see what those Impala are doing. They're not running away from wild dogs, but they do look like they are having a bit of a sparring session. Oh, sorry, Viam, I hope you're holding on. Lots of dust flying around. Yep, they are having a wonderful time with each other, chasing each other around. Oh, chaos! Much grunting. That wonderful sound that Impala make is so incongruous. Okay, so this morning is the morning of Impala sightings. Let's see if they carry on, although generally this sort of behavior at this time of year doesn't last all that long. It's quite fun to see when they do it. Chasing each other around, looking big and scary with their tails up, and the males behaving in a very silly manner. Are you done now? He's not. He's not. He's going to... oh, no. We've all calmed down again. Now, during the rutting period, the males are incredibly distracted, which is a boon for the predators of the area, which is why during the rutting period we noticed that both Karula and Shadow were very successful in terms of catching male Impala. And Kimberly was wondering about, for the poor Impala, how much they need to sleep, since as you can imagine, when you're on everybody's menu, nap time is done with a little bit of reticence. Now, the answer is they don't need to sleep very much at all. They might doze for a couple of minutes at a time usually separate. That's why having a herd is such a big advantage, because you can close your eyes and know that there's lots of eyes and ears still looking out for you. So they don't go to sleep at night. They'll go and they'll lie down and they might doze off every few minutes. But that's where ruminating comes in, because the process of ruminating, you know, when they either lie down or just standing, bringing up the boluses of grass from in their second or in their first stomach, in the rumen, they bring up the ball of cud and they start to chew it, and then they swallow it, and it's one of the ways that their digestive system is very, very effective. And what studies have shown is that the brain waves of ruminating animals mimic those of us in deep sleep. So whilst they do not need to sleep for long periods of time, they kind of get that brain rest that the body needs in order to repair and to jumpstart all of its processes. Are you done now, boys? Whole herd of bachelors. A gentleman's club of Impala. Right, and now we're all done. We're all relaxed again. Back to breakfast. A little bit of sparring, a little bit of exercise. I was kind of hoping if we sat here, the wild dog might come sprinting through. I'm actually gonna put my radio on to scan. Blobbert McBlob has said that he would not like to be an Impala because I'm far too fond of sleep. Fair enough, I agree with you. Sleep is a wonderful thing. I know that I often think that cats enjoy their rest time, and of course lions and leopards are champion sleepers when they want to be. But I wonder if they get the same enjoyment out of nap time in the same way human beings do. Or are human beings the only creatures that nap just sort of for fun and enjoy it? Obviously we nap when we're tired, but we of course have changed our whole sleep cycle. As human beings, instinctively, our sleep patterns should be broken up into two separate sleeps, if that makes any sense. You had the first portion of the night, and then people would wake up, go do their prayers or do whatever else it was, and then go back to sleep again. And they'd have a patch in the middle of the night where they'd wake up. And that, I mean, has changed for us relatively recently in terms of our species evolution. Because if, as far back as the sort of 16th, 17th century, you've got records of people waking up in the middle of the night, going about their business for a couple of hours in the dark, and then going back to sleep again. Now, human beings are actually meant to, instead of having that solid sleep that we get now, we're actually meant to have we're meant to have two separate sleep cycles per night. It's very, very interesting that. I find that the way that we sleep fascinating.